Oke, selamat siang semuanya. Selamat datang di Museum MACAN. Mari merapat teman-teman dan silakan duduk di bangku yang nyaman. Dan kalau teman-teman juga mau bergabung bisa di sekitar sumber suara ini juga bisa. Sebelumnya salam kenal, saya Ninjani, Kurator Edukasi dan Program Publik di Museum MACAN yang akan menjadi MC di hari ini. Dan mewakili teman-teman di Museum MACAN, kami ingin berterima kasih karena teman-teman sudah meluangkan waktu untuk bergabung pada Your Curious Journey, sebuah percakapan. So good afternoon everyone, welcome to Museum MACAN, and so please have a seat. I'm Nin, the Curator of Education and Public Programs as your host today. And on behalf of the team of the museum, I'd like to thank you for making the time to join us for a very special artist talk, Your Curious Journey, a Conversation. So sebelum dimulai, saya akan membacakan beberapa tata tertib dulu. So before we start, I'd like to read you a few house rules. Yang pertama, sesi ini akan berlangsung selama kurang lebih 1 jam. Jadi mohon aktifkan ponsel Anda dalam mode senyap dan jaga ketenangan selama diskusi berlangsung. So this session will run for approximately 1 hour. So please switch your phone to silent mode and keep your voice down during the discussion so everyone can listen. Yang kedua, acara ini disiarkan langsung melalui YouTube Museum MACAN serta direkam melalui foto dan video untuk kepentingan dokumentasi serta pengarsipan. This event is being streamed on Museum MACAN's YouTube channel and recorded through photos and videos for documentation and also archival purposes. Anda dipersilahkan untuk mengambil foto dan video, namun dilarang menggunakan flash karena akan mengganggu kenyamanan orang lain dan dapat membahayakan karya-karya di sekitar kita. You are welcome to take photos and videos, but flash photography is not allowed as it may disturb others and also pose a risk to the artworks around us. Dalam keadaan darurat yang memerlukan evakuasi, mohon tetap tenang dan berjalan ke arah pintu darurat di arah eskalator di sebelah kanan Anda. In case of emergency that requires evacuation, please remain calm and proceed to the emergency exit located near the escalator to your right. Yang terakhir, Museum MACAN adalah ruang aman bagi semua kalangan, dan di sini kami memberi kesempatan untuk audiens dan juga narasumber dapat bertukar pikiran secara terbuka, bijak, dan dewasa. Museum MACAN is a safe space for everyone to engage openly with kindness and respect. Jadi sekali lagi selamat datang teman-teman dan selamat bergabung dalam sesi Your Curious Journey, a Conversation yang membuka rangkaian pameran Olafur Eliasson, Your Curious Journey di Museum MACAN. Ini adalah pameran tunggal skala besar pertama dari Olafur Eliasson di Indonesia, sekaligus bagian dari pameran keliling Asia Tenggara yang menampilkan 3 dekade dari praktik sang perupa dengan karya-karya mengeksplorasi hubungan antara manusia dan alam. Perbincangan kali ini akan melibatkan 3 pembicara, yaitu sang seniman, lalu ada Syaiful Aulia Garibaldi, dan juga Venus Lau, dipandu oleh Kurator Museum MACAN, Cabib Duta Hapsoro sebagai moderator. Sekali lagi sesi ini akan berlangsung selama kurang lebih 1 jam dalam bahasa Inggris dan nanti akan ada kesempatan untuk teman-teman bertanya langsung kepada para pembicara di depan. Nah, jadi setelah ini saya akan mempersilakan Cabib untuk menjelaskan lebih lanjut dan juga memperkenalkan para pembicara. So once again, welcome and thank you for joining us at Your Curious Journey, a Conversation, our first public program for Olafur Eliasson, Your Curious Journey at Museum MACAN. This is Olafur's first major solo show in Indonesia and is part of a traveling show across Southeast Asia, featuring key themes of his 3-decade-long career with artworks that explore the relationships between humans and also nature. And joining us in the conversation today are 3 speakers, Olafur Eliasson himself, Syaiful Aulia Garibaldi, and Venus Lau. And our moderator for today will be Cabib Duta Hapsoro, the curator of Museum MACAN. And this session will run for about 1 hour and will be delivered in English, and there will be a Q&A towards the end of the session. So now I'd like to pass on the mic to Cabib to introduce the speakers and lead the discussion. So round of applause everyone, and Cabib, the floor is yours. Thank you so much and enjoy.
Thank you, Nin, for opening the discussion. So as Nin explained first, I will conduct the discussion in English, so I hope it's good for you all. I'm Cabib, curator of Museum MACAN. Let me give a kind of brief context about the discussion that give an umbrella for this exhibition, and then it's to connect us with the Olafur and Tepu and Venus. So this session will explore the ways environment, climate, and nature help shape artistic practice and creative process. Eliasson practice is related to the unique landscape of the late, correct me if I'm wrong, Olafur, Nordic or European region, where he turns the abstract concept of climate change into tangible physical experience for the public. By incorporating elemental materials like light, color, and mist, Eliasson encouraged the audience to reflect on their relationship with their environment, inspiring an emotional and personal response to the current global challenges. In the tropics, where we hear, climate and the environment crisis is nuanced with the local and indigenous philosophies that view decay as a part of a natural process of regeneration, recalling an ancient connection among all living beings. Syaiful Garibaldi practice focus on the microscopic and microorganism, evoking the way we think of a world that comes alive through symbiotic relationship. In response to your Curious Journey exhibition at Museum MACAN and its travel across Asia Pacific, Venus, the Museum MACAN director, Venus Lau, will also share an insight into the ways how environmental art blends into the setting of a museum space, expanding the discourse surrounding human nature. Let me give you a brief bio of Olafur and Tepu. Olafur Eliasson is an Icelandic Danish artist whose practice spans installation, sculpture, photography, and film, and exploring how perception shape our experience of the world. His major works, such as the weather projects, the New York City waterfalls and ice walks, invite audiences to confront environmental change and our relationship to nature. Eliasson also developed socially engaged projects, including the global artwork Earth Speaker on 2020. He co-founded Little Sun and Studio Other Spaces, and served as UNDP Goodwill Ambassador for Climate Action. Based in Berlin, Studio Olafur Eliasson brings together a multidisciplinary team that support his ongoing investigation into society, ecology, and collective experience. Syaiful Aulia Garibaldi, known as Tepu, we call him, is an Indonesian artist whose practice bridges art and science. After studying agronomy, he earned a bachelor degree of fine art from Bandung Institute of Technology, and later a master degree in environmental science from the University of Indonesia. His installation, paintings, drawings, prints, and videos draw on ecological system, microorganisms, and interconnectivity, creating immersive and environments shaped by scientific inquiry. Through this fusion of discipline, Tepu offers new ways of understanding life, decay, and the complex networks that sustain the world around us. So let me start to ask Olafur with question. So Olafur, okay, how has the changing climate shaped your practice?
Thank you, and thank you for having me here. And hello from me to all of you, and thank you for coming in today. Before I answer your questions, I also want to say I'm very excited to be here in such good company. And I came here today traveling through a part of Southeast Asia from Berlin. Today it is snowing in Berlin, so it is very different here than it is in Berlin. On the way here, I also learned that Jakarta is not just one of the big cities of the world, it is actually the biggest city of the world. And I have been challenged and meeting the level of density, the level of noise, the level of traffic, the level of people, and the chaos here has been amazing. And it's also not been easy. So I want to start, if you don't mind me, before I say, why don't we just all try one thing? Let's be really quiet. It's a small exercise. Be completely quiet, like not even moving. And then we pay attention to the level of sound in the room from everywhere. We have the aircon. There is the echo of the loudspeaker here. There's somebody drilling downstairs or upstairs. Can you hear that? There's the traffic downstairs, there's the airplane, there's the wind, there's the people, there's the children, fantastic children. They're running around, right? Let's say this is a small concert, okay? Ambient concert. No, not tantric, a trance concert. So are you ready? Let's just take 30 seconds of just listen to this concert in the background, okay? Take a deep breath and let's just close the eyes and just listen to everything. Now. Sometimes we can take something which is right here, and instead of looking at it as a disturbance, we can also say, this is beautiful. And have you noticed that if we start to get quiet, they also get quiet. If we speak louder, then they also get more louder over there. Isn't that nice? So we can influence the room. Hello? Do you know? We are not alone. So what we do, they do. If we go up, everything goes up. So we are not just alone. Everything is connected. And I'm so happy to be in Jakarta because this is new to me, because when I do a talk with some friends or with some colleagues, it's always silent. So I have to concentrate now. So let's acknowledge the sound level in the background as a beautiful background concert. It's nice. Huh? So when I work, this is how I work. See, I pay attention because I'm afraid that I don't see my world around me. Right here, there's all the answers. We are a part of the world. We cannot be outside of the world and talk about the world over there, out there, or up there. No, we are a part of the world. So when we talk about the environment and the climate and so on, the first thing I think that is interesting is to understand, how are we in the world? That's why I like the way you work. It's not about looking to the horizon. It's not about looking into the future. It's not about looking into the past. It's about looking down, underneath your feet, right? What is happening right here under your feet, or right here now in this space? And this is where the answers are. I think it was Bruno Latour, the environmentalist, the sociologist and philosopher who died a few years ago, who said, don't look around, look down. His famous book, Down to Earth. And so the environment, I think the first important step, the climate, is to say, it starts here. The environment is not over there or in there or up there. It's here. It is what you eat. It is what you breathe. It is what you do. It is what you say. And if you can change that, then you already are changing everything on a very small scale. I love it.
Okay, thank you, Olafur, for the answer, and then firstly for your intervention to us that keep us like pay attention to surrounding. And regarding your, like, can you walk us through your artistic process, like in your artworks, like you often recreate natural landscape, like in the beauty, and brings them into the gallery space. Like, how does, like, during the process, how does that affect your perception of nature?
I think the important thing is for me to not take things for granted, right? Because we think we know what is reality, what is nature. When I was a child, I was driving, and since then I was walking, and since then I was biking. I was driving through a valley in the highlands called the Valley of Judges. It's a nice name, the Judging Valleys, the Doom Valley. I thought it was Doom, but it's the Valley of Judgment. It's a beautiful valley full of moss. And on the one side, somebody has driven with a car up the mountain, through the moss. And when I was a child, maybe 10 years old, I was like, whoa, it's very steep. And you can see in the moss, the car going up and then going down. So when I was 15, I was like, oh yeah, this crazy car. And when I was 20, I was like, oh my God, you can still see the tracks in the moss. Nature is not repairing itself so quickly. When I was 30, I took my girlfriend, I was a little late, I took my girlfriend and I said, look at these tracks. I remember since I was a child. They were different, but you can still see them. When I was 50, I took my children and I say, when you come to the Valley of Judgment, I will show you the tracks that I saw I was a child. Somebody drove with a car, and that moss will take 200 years to fix itself because the cars. So when I saw it the first time, I thought, 1 or 2 years is gone. It's not 1 or 2 years for nature to recalibrate. I took for granted nature was much stronger. I was wrong. It takes not 2 years, it takes 200 years. So the consequences of human action on nature, the consequences of culture on nature, means there is no nature left. As Donna Haraway, the environmentalist, the feminist, and the great ecologist, philosopher, writer, Donna Haraway, she calls it nature culture, or culture nature. No, nature culture. Yeah, nature culture. That's the new word for nature. There is no nature. Where is it? The air? No, it's full of something, right? The soil is full of something. The water is full of something. The ocean is full of plastic. There is no nature left. So let's just call it nature culture. We, the human era, the Anthropocenic era, has influenced everything at this point. So that's what I meant. When I look for myself. I did not drive the car up the mountain. I saw it, but I understood my own actions by looking at it. And my children, they were much smarter. They said to me, Dad, did you do that? You were bad. No, 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 I did not do that. They said. So it's interesting, young people like you are smarter, because when I was a child, I was just like, haha. Now I know it is so sensitive what we are doing to the world, and it is not going to come back quite that fast.
So you tell us about how you, by your experience, you change your perception and your the wisdom that regarding you see in the nature, and you see how nature works and how it's changed how we experience nature after that.
Oh, I forgot to say something, of course. And this is why there is a moss wall here. The punchline, my punchline. Did you see when you go there, there's the moss wall. That is the same moss.
I
That's
see.
exactly the same moss, but not with the car tires. But you know,
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. So let me jump to Saiful or Tepu. Since the Olafur is already introduced about the moss, and so I want you to share your experience that what first that sparks your curiosity about the leaves of fungus and microorganism and yeah, also moss. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Check. Okay. Thank you, Chabib, for the question, and congrats again, Olafur and Venus, for the beautiful show, and thank you for everyone who's coming here. Yeah. Uh, the f- the first, the really begin is about the curiosity. My first began really starts from the world under the microorganism. So it's like back then when I was studying agriculture, it's like 20 years ago. So it's like I spent a lot of time to preparing the lenses, to sketching the tiny plant structures, or trying to make sense the forms that you can see with your naked eye. And then it become quite routine for me. I grow to attach to. So then when I moved to the art school, and then the routine is follow me. It's like it used to becomes like the class assignment, and then slowly it's like a ritual for me to looking for the shape, to looking for the detail, to looking for the texture that can spark to my painting or my drawing. But then over time I realized it's like, oh, the visual is only at the beginning. So we need to encourage to dig more deeper. So like, what's the story? What's the idea? What's the phenomena behind the images? So that's time I'm really aware with the what's happening around me. Mostly the something that unnoticed. And then there is one moment in the natural cycle, in the life cycles that kept pulling me in. It's decomposition. There is there was some there is a powerful stage decomposition. It's like where the life and the death twist into each other. Just like when some things end and also the some things new can begin. So that's why in my works there is many the bacteria and then the fungi and sometimes the maggots. Sometimes they can appear to my installation, to my works. And for me, they weren't just like subjects. I felt they're like the characters in the story that I'm learning how to tell. Mm.
Okay. Thank you, Tepu. Yeah? Okay. So you once mentioned that the fungus and microorganism is your collaborators for your artworks. So can you elaborate on that? So how they collaborate and in the process, it's changed your perception and it's changed also your experiment and how you say that your work is like kind of finished or perfect or kind of that. Do you think its process is also kind of, yeah?
Yeah, yeah. So the first, I would say the first process, my artistic process, is always start with the simple awareness. That's like you working with the living organism. Yeah, when your collaborators are alive, so the quickly and then and then the quickly you know that you cannot control everything, right? And then so yeah, but for me, it's like it's not become the limitation, but it comes like a become you know the best excitement because you work will gonna grow or they will gonna change not through your intention, something like that. So there is one project because we talking about the most also, right? And then so there is one project in Bandung around 10 years ago. It's called Balitsa Ehor. So the project is developed in Bandung, in my city that I'm working now. So I'm using a lichen. So I'm using the lichen as a bioindicator for the air quality. So the Bandung city is like the shape is like a basin. So it means that every area have a different variety of the air condition. So I'm using the lichen then. So for the first, I collected the lichen from that already growing in the natural public spaces, and then I'm relocated to the new spaces. And then I observe to see either the color, to see the texture, and then so many their vitality change. And so the lichen is like an incredible collaborators for me. So you cannot cultivate lichens. You cannot force them to grow because they exist because there is the fungi and then the algae. They come together with the natural symbiosis. So the fungi hold the moisture, and then the algae produce the nutrients. So they collaborated together in the natural. And then for the project, so I collect the like a 200 meters of the fence that's already growing the lichen with around 300 bars. And then when I move, when I locate it, and then when I watching them, and then when I observe, and then it reminds me again that you are working with the living organism. Sometimes you cannot control them, and then you just need to listening. You just need to, how to say, you just need to accept it, and then they will gonna grow with your artwork. That's special with working with the living organism as your collaborator for me.
Okay. Thank you.
For sure.
I want to say something to that because I find it so inspiring what you're saying. I just want to say thank you. And this way of working, I really appreciate what you're saying because there is a lot of the elements that you're talking about, they don't really fit into the traditional art world. Because lichen just does what lichen does. And you, as you said, you cannot control it. And I love this ability you have to zoom in something so small. You know, you know more probably, but the beginning of life on this planet was some kind of small bacteria maybe. And it went from the ocean into land. And the sun rose in east. There's a compass there. East, west, right? Yeah. Go up there and down there. So the small bacteria come from the ocean to the beach. They had a little bit of cyan color. You know, cyan, magenta, yellow, cyan on the back. So it was like the sun, east. And then it goes to the west, then to the east. So it was wriggling, like morning, evening. So it could move. It's so small. This is the beginning of us. Circadian rhythm, right? Jet lag. Do you see? And so you can so fungi. 10 years ago, I was so inspired, and it's so great to see, what's her name? Anna Tsing. Anna Tsing, the great Anna Tsing. Fungi at the end of the world. And But this idea of scaling in, scaling out, I find it so inspiring. And we can also say language. We say tree. Maybe it's wrong. Object. 20 meters tall, 2,000 kilo, 600 euro, 2 hours, 2 years, 2 trucks of tree. Maybe it is not a tree. Maybe it is treeing, right? And you have such strong indigeneity in Indonesia that I shall not talk to you about because you know much more than me. But imagine a world like Natasha Myers, the biologist, dancer, and microbiologist, dancer, and anthropologist from Canada, where she says there are no nouns. Car, table, bottle. No. Carring, tabling, bottling, treeing. It's a journey. And that's a bit like bacteria, lichens, moss, mushrooms. Everything is moving. The sound. So we need to vegetabilize our minds. We need to become plants. We need to become his artwork. You know, it's possible. You just be quiet and do like this.
Thank you, Olafur. So next question. Next question is for Venus. So as Syaiful or Tepu and Olafur has already explained their process about regarding their interaction with nature and the environment. So of course, in the context of museum, there is a kind of limitation or maybe potential regarding to connect us to this kind of new art making or art like production. So what you can tell about the role of the museum that can host this kind of process for us, for audience?
Thank you. Hi. Can you hear me well? Okay. Is it a curatorial question or is like a museum operation question?
Maybe curatorial first.
Okay.
No.
No, we take the boring part first.
Okay.
So if it's like, okay, if we bring your work into the museum, so we have some modernist works like in our storage and it's connected to the central air system. Yes, that is like something that our exhibition team will complain about that. You know, there are works that we don't want them to get moldy. That is very straightforward. But I think like your question, I think it implies a thing that we actually talked about it earlier is like we see nature as an exterior. You know, okay, I remember like back in those days when, you know, Robert Smithson and all the other land artists, when they work on the land art, they are looking for the nowhere outside human activities. And we don't have the luxury about that anymore. They're all, like you can see the Spiral Jetty on Google Maps. So, okay, it's all under the surveillance of like the satellites in the skies bounce back to us. So go back to your question because we just like have a curatorial meeting like for the program like for the coming few years. So we talk about one of the artists that we would love to work with, and then that involves like 700 kilograms of rotting flowers in 4 months. So that is something that, okay, that is something that we need to balance. We would love to show the artwork as like, you know, kind of a living process or living and dying process, like throughout the exhibition, that is not like a stagnant art piece stuck in the forever present of contemporary art. But at the same time, that will be issues. I don't want like maggots and flies everywhere, I'm sorry. Like, but so this is like not like here and there, like, okay, the ultimate exterior of nature and also, you know, the very sterilized museum. There's a lot of things in between. So when we go back to the moss wall, which is a little bit far from here. I mean, I can see it, but when you get closer, you can smell it. Because I remember when I saw this work in Taipei during a tour, I smelled it when I entered it. I was just like, it's not a good or bad smell, but it's something that's outside, like, you know, the human vocabulary of odor, because like, we don't have a lot of vocabularies for smell. For color, we have a lot. We are we're visual animals. But for smell, it's usually like, we name it, either we want it so much, it's about desire, or we name it because we want to get rid of it. So this is something that there is a lot of something in between. When we work with artists like Olafur and you, and also like I also talk to Annika Yi, like we talk about like, okay, having a space, like this, because talking back about smells, power is odorless. Okay, when you go to White House, I have never been, but you go to like serious like government buildings, if you smell something, that means there is an issue. So I think for this exhibition, at least like taking this piece as like an example, like the moss wall, you smell it, you open up a little bit, that is like, the crack in the power of putting, like this white cube museum that like is like, you want to get rid of everything like time, space, and is it clear enough? Is it too long? No. Okay. But yeah.
I don't mean to answer to everything. I just think, as an artist, this is an interesting question. Are you looking on your clock all the time? It's stressing me out. Is anybody busy? You can just sneak out back quietly if it's possible. But listen, no, it's such a good question. Let me make a pyramid. I don't believe in pyramids. I believe in spheres or surfaces. But anyway, let's make a pyramid today. On the top of the pyramid is art, always. If art is not on the top, it's not art. You cannot say money on the top and then art below, because then it's not art. Then it's arts and crafts and design and fashion and whatever. It's not bad, but it's not art. Then we have museums. If museums are on the top, then art has to fit to museums. That's not possible. Museums did not come first. Just remind us, first art and then museums. If there was no artists, there would be no museums, right? So I had an exhibition, and it was, I did not know your work at the time, but it's a kind of like a group show with you and me. It was called Life. I should have called it Living, but I called it Life. It was at the Bayerle Foundation, and it's in Basel, Switzerland, and you are now allowed to take up your phone and look, Google or ChatGPT or fucking search an image called Life Eliasson Basel. Bayerle, so hard to spell. So anyway, what it was is, I said, I want to make inside to outside of the museum. So I asked, take off the facade of the museum. And the museum director, very courageous, he said, Olafur. And then I said, Pyramid Art Museum. And he was like, And then he said, okay, you call the architect. No, you call the architect. No, you call the architect. I called the architect, was Renzo Piano. Take out your phone and Google Life Eliasson, Switzerland, right? Basel. I called Renzo Piano, and he said, Olafur, he's Italian, can you just take out the glass? It's the same. No, I said, whole facade. And then COVID came, so we could not go in the museum. So if we take the facade off, inside as outside, and you COVID, you can go outside, you cannot go inside. So it was good. So outside, there is water, and I put in green color, and I put the water on the inside. And downstairs is a basement, there is collection of the museum. Modigliani, Monet, Monet is water, anyway. Water lilies. So in this way, the museum, they were humble. And they tried to fit art. And my experience is that we artists, there's many artists here I can see, we artists have also responsibility not to compromise. Like you, no, take down the facade, or we don't do a show. We can do that. It's not our problem to be a museum also, right? So this is so important. We are strong. Artists are strong because we are at the top of the pyramid, right? It's also nice to be not at the top of the pyramid, but it is a lot of responsibility to respond to the accountability of art. But this is where history is made. If you take down then it's not making history. You have to stay at the top. And that's why making difficult art, it's not so difficult. And there are much more difficult artists than us. So, but I just want to say, that's why we don't even have to talk about it. I was so happy you said, well, you have to find a solution to the problem. We did not make the museum in the first place. And you... No, but yeah, no, I know. But you made a solution for my show, and I'm very grateful. You know, because Moss, this piece of art belongs to the museum Tate Modern, and they also were thinking, yeah, there are small animals and humidity and smell and so on. And I just said, Pyramid Art Museum, okay? And they said, okay.
You wanna straightly respond to Olafur's?
Respond the management.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, art is on the top of pyramid. I agree. I mean, like, do you have other questions I can respond?
So maybe I wanna ask or discuss about the kind of consequences. There is a good consequences and not good consequences. Like, especially when we talk about the kind of mobility. And as a traveling exhibition, so you travel a lot. Like also, Tepu also travel a lot to show his works and do residency. And the show is, before Jakarta, the show was happening in the Singapore, and then Auckland and Taipei. And lots of mobility that happening before the show happened here. So, and you have a good, deal with the good consequences that you have facing a new context that in Indonesia, you can get around the city and you find how we live now. But I want to ask that, are you like aware about the new context that you found in every place that you were there, and also how you deal with anticipate the not good consequences about this traveling show?
Yeah, I will try to answer a little shorter now. My answers are so long. First part, yes. Second part, also yes. Third part, maybe. No, so honestly, this is a touring show. It's called Your Curious Journey, the journey of the show. From the outset in Berlin, we chose works that would be environmentally less challenging, carbon footprint low, easy to ship, and we made a plan to ship everything by ocean, the least carbon emission possible. Not to fly it, not to make heavy work that is relatively easy to install. So the tour is the possibly lowest footprint of environmental impact possible. This is how we run the studio. Everything we do, we try. And sometimes we fail, right? And sometimes we learn things that we do better next time. It's a process that we have been applying to for some time now. And it is normal. It's almost not worth mentioning because we are all trying. I believe we all feel we have the mandate, we have the power to do a little bit better every day. And in my studio, I have a fantastic team who are also real people in the real world with real questions. And they are also trying. So we collaborate in this way. And we say to our partners in the institutions, can we please try to be sensitive? Because it matters. So when I go, I try to understand the local. I'm so happy to meet you today, to meet people from the local art scene. But I also was very lucky that the museum, we went to the north of Jakarta because I read in the paper about the sea level rise and the groundwater falling and the issue of millions and millions and millions of people. And I was like, 20 centimeters, 25 centimeters a year cannot be true. What are they thinking? Right, so, but then we went, and I'm so grateful to experience the local because I was like, I could not believe. We went to the concrete wall, then the concrete wall, then the concrete wall, and I could see the ocean. And I was like, holy moly. And then I could see the water level of the city. And it was a huge difference. You have issues. I am sorry to tell you. You should tell your government to get its shit together. But this is not me to tell you. I know you're trying, you're so great. But now I know why the government wants to go to Borneo. It's clear. So this is not funny, but I'm just telling you, this is why environmental questions start with the small particles, and then it becomes the big issues. Because from the bacteria, from the tiny, tiny small questions, I think the kind of digital, the climate emergency, it's a polycrisis, right? It's a crisis of many things. Governments, social injustice, social inequality, digital inequality, right? Racial inequality. Everything is mixed together. Right? It's so complex. That's why we need spaces like museums, which is safe spaces to have difficult conversations. Exhibitions, art spaces, art schools, public art, public spaces. The spaces where we can have conversations which we cannot have in the government or in the private sector or in the, it may be educational sector we can, but there is not a lot of space left where we can have difficult conversations. And it starts, if not with art, it starts with culture. I think culture, literature, dance, music, indigeneity, identity, belonging, dignity, feeling, feeling acknowledged. I feel acknowledged. This is so difficult today.
Thank you. So, same question to Tepu. So, how you learn about the good and bad consequences regarding your process of your artistic practice?
Yeah, the consequences. And I want to respond, Olafur. So, yeah, we are in the what is it? We are in the country. It's like how to say? Yeah, as Indonesian, in Indonesia, the idea of the Anthropocene is not an abstract, It's really happening here, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. It's really happening. Yes, like say, you guys went to the north of the Jakarta, right? It's like they started sinking. It's like 2 hours or 3 hours from here, and then when you go there, you can see the water sinking. Or you just like go to the Citarum River. It's like one of the most polluted river in the world. Still until now, it's like so. I'm living in Bandung, in the area of the upstream, and then when your visits nearby of the downstream, so it's like I'm really connected with the people in the downstream area in the north Jakarta or north Bekasi. Yeah, what I'm really want to tell is like when you're living in this it says like in this area, we're talking about the climate change, we're talking about the environmental issue is really happening here. And then maybe through this talk, I want to say also to our heart to now is happening in Tapanuli, in Sumatra. We have the big flood there. We have really the big flood issue in the Sumatra. It's happening now. And then so it's like when you're asking the consequences, it's not consequences. It's like everybody problem, right? It's like everybody, how to say, everybody issue, and then it's like when, how to say, maybe if you see like, with the art, maybe the art is like they just like a starting the discussion about what kind of the issue, but we are in here. If you are either you are technician, either you are a doctor. When we talking about the environmental issue, it's like our issue together. It's like not just like the issue like for today. It's like an issue for the 20 years. I don't. Not for our us, that not just for us, it's like for our son and for our grandchildren also, right? Something like that. Yeah, maybe that's it.
Thank you. Do you want to add more or regarding the consequences or regarding the mobility and meet the new context, each other, but there is also not good consequences regarding the
I
mobility.
mean, like,
Yeah.
I was we went to North Jakarta. I mean, thanks to you and Oliver, because like, since I moved here like last year, my life is basically commuting between my apartment and also like Macan. So I didn't get to see the city. So like the sinking like 20 centimeters like every year of Jakarta is a number to me. But seeing that, of course, like it's like what you said before, like it's like to see like the crazy sea level, that is like, you know, I think it's very interesting, like for me, like to see how the city tackled the rising sea level with a wall. You know, like, you know, every time when I hear like, you know, a policy that involves a wall, then like, I was just like, okay, that doesn't sound like the most ideal solution, right? But I mean, like, because when you talk about good and bad consequences tackling this kind of issues, it's a UN question. So like, I may not be able to answer that very precisely, but I think like there is something that, so we have a scholar like Adam Bobet who came to, who just released a book about, it's called A Pulse of the Earth. So it's like talking about how like tectonic like movement, like plate movement, including like all the volcanoes in Indonesia, how it affects like the forming of the archipelago itself. So it's not just like a destructive force. It's not just a bad consequence, because a lot of agriculture also are linked with that too. And also like the possibility of thermal energy that I hope the government is also exploring that too. So I think like thinking about, okay, we have like very bad consequence and then like very good, but there is something, I mean, these are two sides, two extremes that we usually can't change. To expand the middle, I think is more important.
Thank you, Venus. So now we are in the session of Q&A. So I invite audience that have question or comments to these three speakers. So, okay, 1, 2, and 3. So maybe, yeah. And please introduce your name first.
Check. Okay. My name is Chris. I am not an artist. I'm a science teacher in a middle school around here. Actually, I'm here because my friend, who is an artist, convinced me that you can learn about sustainability and environment through arts. There will be exhibitions here. So we're going, my student will have exhibition here on December 10. And this is a grade 10 student, meaning, yeah, we have a lot of, around 67 students here. I'm really happy because I'm coming here with kind of skepticism a little bit, like how can we learn about science of sustainability using arts that's on its own, it's already hard to understand for me at least, for someone that is not having some literature in arts. Art itself, I agree, is on top of this pyramid of the hierarchy. I completely agree with that. So my question will be, what do you think will be your suggestions for me as a teacher later when I visit here with my students, which I'm actually quite excited now because Mr. Olafur, sorry, and Mr. Saifuddin, especially Mr. Saifuddin as well, is very scientific minded. Um, the first lesson that I got here is how Mr. Olafur teach us about interconnectedness in here, which that's our theme in this visit. We want students to build conversation around this interconnectedness, and we want them to come up with questions that actually build conversation. But how to navigate when we have the visit in here, probably I need to, yes, your recommendation or your advice. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih, thank you. Olafur, do you want to straight answer the question, or we collect questions first?
Yeah, let's collect questions. I think
Alright.
I can say something quickly, but
Okay.
yeah, but what to say to your students and what to say to your children? I think you should start by saying, don't do the same as me and the grown-ups, because if the grown-ups or the teachers had done it right, we would not sit in the mess we are in. So, dear children, dear students, I am sorry, you have to come up with something better than what the parents, the scientists, the governments, everyone did. Because you have one thing, dear student, in common with everyone in the world. In Sumatra, here in Jakarta, in Iceland, where I come from, in Germany, in Berlin, the world is collapsing under your feet right now. Foundations are the collapsing one. Here in Jakarta, the sea level rise is not the problem. The groundwater falling down, the foundation of the sea wall is the problem. So it goes to this, and then the water comes in. So students, do not do like your parents. Unlearn, right? Unlearn what I have been teaching you.
Thank you. Tepu?
Yeah, it's about the education, right? Yes. Sometimes the art, it can become like a unique to say the science data, the science communication. They have their own strategy to say that it's not. When you come to the museum like this, or when you come to the gallery, and then there's the artworks, they're talking about the art, and they're talking about the environmental issue, let's say. When you come there, and then when you see the artwork, and then you observe them, it's very different. It's very different how they give you the information. It's totally different, like when you're in the class. Let's say like in the class, the teacher and then say, this one, this thing, and then it's like but the art, it comes like they more warm, and then you come, and then you got the information, and then starting to discussion with that, It's not really, how to say, it's very unique. It's the power of the art to say even the environmental issue, that so you can, keep often go to the art museum to looking to the Macan, to see the artwork, and with your children, with the kids.
Yes, that's a good one. That's good. And as a scientist, your answer is so good, I have to upgrade my answer. No, as a scientist, it is your responsibility also to tell the children that the economy of environmental science is one here, and for every time you have one economy for environmental and climate science, you have 5 times the size, 5 times more money in the economy of the fossil fuel industry lobbying against climate science. Right? Climate science is this, economy to say that they are lying is this. Tell the children that the world is not always what it seems to be, because there is much more money in telling the untrue than to tell the truth. That's the grown-ups world.
Thank you. Next question.
Hi, my name is Vanya. I'm here representing a media called The Curator, so we're like a local independent media. First of all, congrats on the arrival of your first big exhibit in Jakarta. And as you can see, there's like a lot of anticipation from creatives and viewers and just everyone. And either they're super inspired by your works or they're seeking to learn something from your works when they visit the exhibition inside. So my question is, now that you've had a glimpse of Jakarta and you've conversed with some of the locals here, in your own perspective, why do you think your work has such a big deal to the local audiences here?
I'm not sure it has yet. I came here as a guest, and my mission is to stay open and to learn. I'm not here to tell you anything. I maybe sound like that, but I am honestly here to stay open. I went to Ubud to see 2 bamboo factories. I went to see bamboo architects. I tried to learn a little bit about the tensegrity and structural issues of bamboo building. I'm not going to build with bamboo, but it's so interesting, I found. Environmentally more sane architecture than concrete and glass. I went to see cotton weavers with this very thin Indonesian cotton. I went to see ceramics. I went to see, anyway, I've been around now a little bit, and we went to the Maritime Museum to see the history of the colonialization of this country. I read this book about the nutmeg some 3 or 4 years ago, The Nutmeg Curse. My God, that's a depressing book. And I am sorry for the Dutch. So I was at the museum, the Maritime Museum, which is a very humble museum. It's very humble. And we got a great tour from a great guide who was so humble. It was fantastic to learn. And I stayed open as much as I could because it was shameful to see how the people had been treated here. So I don't know whether my work fully resonates, but I'm so grateful and really quite humbled to be here, and I'm hoping that it's more like a dialogue. I'm not here to teach you anything. You know everything you need to know. And if you don't know something, you have a fantastic artist everywhere in here that you can ask. I'm such a honored, I'm so honored to be your guest.
Thank you. Okay. Next question.
Hello, my name is Vitaly. Thank you for the exhibition and thank you for Museum MACAN. I live in Indonesia for quite some time, and MACAN became one of the openings. I didn't expect this kind of establishments and museums this level in Indonesia, to be honest, because usually no one takes Indonesia as a art capital, but as Olafur said, there are a lot of artists, local artists, amazing places such as Yogyakarta, for example, whereas or Ubud, where you can find very unusual artists. And my question is not only to Olafur, to maybe Madame Lu as well. So my impression was, I live in Bali, and we're doing art project with the local artist. We're doing multimedia art. I'm a multimedia artist, and Olafur, let me tell you thank you, because back in the day I became artist because of you, because I stumbled upon your works 20 years ago, and I didn't know that this kind of art exists. And Museum MACAN is one of the places that give me exactly the same feel. Like, I didn't know that this kind of stuff exists in the world. And when I talk with Indonesian artists, they don't know that MACAN is existing. So the question is, how do you feel? Is there any ways maybe to do something that Olafur done before, when art goes from museum around, become a part of the city, become a part of environment, become like a public art, but not just I don't know, a sculpture on a crossroad, but some kind of like a crazy light arts, crazy artworks, even graffiti or something like that. Do you have something maybe some plans in MACAN to do this kind of stuff with the local artists, to go beyond the museum too, because this situation with the sea, I've been to port, so it does look like a crazy artwork, to be honest, like with the water inside and the old ships keeping the water from the city. And yeah, so I don't know what my question is. I just want you guys to share your vision on how can you go beyond the museum and beyond the like just very good international artists and be like involve more local people and keep like to turn Jakarta maybe to an art place. It's a huge place. Yeah, this is it. Thank you.
I think the question goes to Venus. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the question. I mean, we have been always thinking about how to work on programs that are beyond the walls. Maybe not crazy like art sometimes, but I think this July we actually invited an artist from London whose focus is quantum physics. And then we invited her to do research, which will be the seed of her future work. May or may not show in MACAN, but we initiate the research project to the oldest cave painting in the world in Sulawesi, which they've just found it like last year, and then the cave painting was dated 50,000 years ago. And I was just like, I asked the artist, like, do you really find a connection or you just want like a free travel? And then like, but I think like, because quantum physics is very non-representational, and then the cave painting is one of the earliest human activity of representation. They documented like the stencil of their body traces, which is like a traces of existence and experience that define us, and also like how they hunt the boar and all that. So it's interesting that, you know, like she tried to connect these two together. And we also talk about like, oh, like quantum physics, you know, like as like a biggest known unknown. Like everyone knows this word now, and no one knows what it is. So, you know, when you ask me, it's like, I only know the popular science version of the definition, like something a little bit more than Wikipedia page. But I think like she tries to like, because we also talk about education too. I think the artist is not trying to, oh, let me teach you what it is. Although we did have a workshop with our audience here, but it's more like, she tried to connect it through art, you know, like how we call that, like, you know, there is like you're here and there, and then also like the spooky entanglement. She tried to make it like through art that people can perceive. So I think this is some of the experiments that we started doing, like that is outside, like how do we perceive the world outside just the museum wall and just like contemporary art. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
I want to just add to that. At least I want to say thank you for exposing to us that you chose to become an artist because of some work you saw of mine. Thank you so much. That I hope it's worked out okay for you. I'm serious. This is it's a very vulnerable thing to say, or to hear at least. I want to say the idea of artists on the street. It's also up to us artists, because now there are some artists here. We can make art on the street. You know, it's possible. We don't need a museum. We don't need a museum at all, actually. You know, if there was no museums, we would still be artists, right? So it is possible to make art on the street. And I wanted just to mention one example. When I was 14, I was walking down a pedestrian zone in Denmark, and I saw, and I already knew I wanted to be an artist, by the way, and I saw somebody who's like doing this slow motion, and I was like, I was just beginning puberty. I was a little late. I was like, wow, fantastic. For the first time in my life, I saw light. I was so happy. Slow motion. So for 1 or 2 years, I was like, slow motion, like this. I'll show you. So like this. So. And I was just Do you see what happens when I'm slow? I can say, I'm just normal. You are fast. So it's not just me. On the street, I could become gravitationally, I could become more floating. And you become more grounded. Do you see, it's like the sound over there. When we are loud, they are loud. So I can influence the street, I can bend it, I can curve the street. I became a street performer, but I learned to do all kinds of movements, not to be alone in the street, but to become a part of the street. That is what art, I think, can do. We can somehow show waves that are not there until we make them. So what is interesting is that when we become slow and say, I'm not slow, I'm normal, everybody else is fast. So relativity of slowness is such an important topic, and that we can do on the street. We can also paint graffiti. I was one night in, not prison, but detention, when I was 15, because it was hip hop, like this. So then I have to make graffiti, and I was good at drawing. So on the train, the police, and so on. So what is important is, it is up to us, the artists, to make the graffiti, to make the dance, to make the street our space. We don't have to wait for the museums. We can do what we want. We can tell the students, go change the world. We don't know how to do it, but let's make sure that the spaces remain public. Let's tell the politicians, don't privatize everything. There needs to be a little public space. And we also have to be smart, right? We have to be smart and we have to be honest. We are here in this great museum of the MACAN. You said it's a great museum, not everyone knows it. This museum is a fantastic place under the great umbrella of Haryanto, the owner of the museum. Haryanto also works in the fossil fuel industry. It's a paradoxical, huh? It's a paradox. Don't you think so? But what do? This is still better than doing it not. And I get to talk to Haryanto, who's a really nice guy. I used to drive a car with petrol. So who am I to tell him off? Right? And he has a whole pyramid of children and grandchildren. He has a whole football team. They will know about what their parents did and the grandparents did. So this is the reality. We have to be smart. There is no need to be evil. There's no need to be bad, but there is a need to be honest. And we, the artists, we have to be the most honest, because if we are not honest, it's not art. It's not vulnerable, and it doesn't create any trust.
Okay, thank you, Olafur. So, can we? Okay. So now we are in the last part of the discussion. So thank you very much for your attention, and thank you for Olafur, Tepu, and Venus, who shared their insightful thoughts for us. And maybe I will give back the mic to Nin. Thank you.
No more questions? Okay. Chabib, what do you? You stay.
Okay.
One more question.
Okay.
I'm really sorry if this is taking time. Is this taking time? All right. Just in case here. Hi, good afternoon. Yes. My name is Ayla, and I have a question for the artists here today. Good afternoon, Mr. Eliasson, Olafur, and Syaiful. Yes. I have a general question for you two. But before I start, thank you so much for being here, Mr. Eliasson. I'm a huge fan of your work, and your work has inspired me to make my first ever installation at school for my first ever project, yes. And I'm really grateful for that. I really liked your weather project. It inspired me a lot. And for my question is, apparently you talked about living in the present and not the past and the future. But if I were to ask one question, if you had to, if you wanted to, or if you needed to or have to go back to your previous projects or your previous artworks or anything from your previous works have you done, what would you do and what would you make? What would you change? That's my question. Thank you.
I often revisit older works, and thank you for saying that you were influenced to make a work of installation yourself. Thank you so much. The way I look at it, what I did in the past remains flexible and relative, and I can still change them. I'm not done with the past, because the past is with me here today. Just like the Maritime Museum makes us reconsider the past. The past is not static. The past is relative to where we stand, right? So I can reconsider my own childhood. It's called therapy. So, you know, I can go back into the past and I can change it. That trauma, shh. And now trauma is different. So first of all, I'm more conscious about the future and facing forward. So sometimes I imagine myself, I often imagine myself 10, 20 years from now, 20 years, that's 4 meters of water in Jakarta. Jesus, right? 20 years from now, I will be 65. And I will send myself an email. No, I will send myself an AI mail or something. Back to today where I'm sitting here. And I would tell myself, what should I say? And I go like, oh shit. Did I say the sea level rise, the groundwater? Oh yes, that's a good idea. I have to say that. So I try also today, or when I work making art, I try to be accountable to the future, to what has not happened yet. And I don't try to be accountable to the past, because I don't want to walk backwards into the future, because then I bump into things all the time. I want to face forward and walk into the future. And I say it a little bit like this because it's very important. Paul Klee, he made a drawing, no, a watercolor or something on paper. And Walter Benjamin, the German philosopher, bought it. It was called Angelus Novalis, the angel from the Old Testament that flies backwards into the future using the wisdom of the past to fly into the future. Now we know that is not a good idea, because the wisdom of the past is the modernity, the colonialization, but maybe the wisdom of the indigeneity, because they did not steal from the nature, from the resources of the planet. Maybe that is something to take with us. But we need to turn the angel around and face forward, which is what Bruno Latour wrote about. Turn the angel around and face forward, because the past is not a good model anymore. So I try, when I work, I try to imagine, what would I think in 2 years from now that I should have said here in Jakarta? Or what should I have shown? And I very much work like that. And I'm so inspired when people are ahead of me, in front of me, and I go like, oh, nice, I can see the future, because it's so inspiring, right? I'm sorry I talked so much, and you are much more knowledgeable. But this is so as to time and temporality, I don't really, the past is a luxury that I cannot afford considering the world we are in right now. That's not really true, but it sounds good. It sounds good.
Thank you, Olafur. So it's an important statement from Olafur, and for us to reflect and see the other surrounding us in different way. So thank you again for your coming, and the show of Olafur Eliasson still been going to next year, and there still be a children art space that you can see, and we will have a photo
Group
session
photo,
with,
yes. Just before we close the session, can we have a group photo together?
yeah,
Okay, so yeah, first,
yeah.
first the four, okay. The four of you first, and then together with the audience. Yes. So you're like facing this way, so you can face this way. Stand up like this. One more, please. In the audience.